When I was a kid attending Academy Elementary School, every year in spring, we celebrated a holiday named Arbor Day. Now, I don't know if Arbor Day is celebrated in school anymore, but Arbor Day was a day set aside to plant a tree. And back there in Academy Elementary, a whole school would go out and we'd plant a little tree every year. So this year, Arbor Day is on April 24th, 2020. So if you get a chance, plant a tree. Anybody ever hear that saying, you can't see the forest through the trees? Well, what that means is that you're so busy looking at details that you can't see the big picture. But what about the opposite? What about that you're so busy looking at the big picture that you don't notice the details? So I thought it'd be fun to see if you guys could identify trees by just the bark, because in early spring, of course, the leaves aren't out, and it's kind of hard to identify some. Some are easy, but some are hard. So I picked out 10 trees from up here on Poverty Hill and thought it might be fun to see if you guys could identify them based just on their bark. And then I threw in a couple of bonus questions regarding trees. So if you got a couple minutes, see how you do on the test. If you said apple, you are correct. If you said beech, you are correct. If you said birch, you are correct. If you said blue beech, you are correct. If you said cherry, you are correct. If you said maple, you are correct. If you said hemlock, you are correct. If you answered hop hornbeam, you are correct. If you said Lombardy poplar, you are correct. If you said black oak, you are correct. Which of the following has the most BTUs when used as firewood? Apple or cherry? If you answered apple, you are correct. Chaga is found on which of the following trees? Beech, maple, birch. If you said birch, you are correct. True or false? A mature hemlock can live to be over 200 years old. If you answered true, you are correct. I'm sure you guys did real good on that. But if you ever come across a tree and you can't identify it, they make some field guides. This is one here that I use. It's a Peterson field guide to eastern trees, and it's a good book, and I use it quite often when I come across a tree that I can't identify. Ever wonder how old a tree is? Now, if the tree's cut down, you can count the growth rings. Each ring equals a year of the tree's life. However, if a tree is still standing, there's a method to estimate the tree's age. The tree here next to me is a smaller cherry tree. And what you do is you measure around the tree, and then you come up with how many inches it is around. And you usually do it about 4 foot off the ground. Then you divide that number by 3.14, and then you come up with that number, and then you take that number and you multiply it by a growth rate. For a cherry tree, the growth rate is about 4.5, I believe. There's charts on the internet, the faster growing trees, and then there's slower growing trees. Now this is just an estimate. I'm sure soil conditions and climate and how far up north you are, et cetera, affected, but it's a pretty good estimate. Now this little cherry tree next to me, I did the measurements, and I come up with a factor, not a factor, but after factoring in everything, I come up with an age of around 40 years, which I would think is about accurate. So that's fun to do. Like I said, the growth factor chart is on the internet for all sorts of species. It's fun to do. If you find a great big tree out in the woods somewhere, measure it up, and you might be surprised how long it's been growing there.